The Arabian Sea is a vast and unforgiving stretch of water. When a merchant ship carrying Muslim women is boarded by Med pirates, the sudden violence of the attack shatters the quiet equilibrium of the region. Amidst the chaos and the fighting, a captive woman from the Bani Yarbu tribe screams a single name out over the water, "O Hajjaj." Over 1,000 miles away, the Umayyad governor al-Hajjaj receives word of the raid. From his palace, he responds with a terse, absolute guarantee, "I am here." Almost immediately, the gears of a massive military mobilization begin to turn. A single plea for help from an isolated ship forces the hand of the Umayyad Empire, pulling its vast armies and resources into an expansive war on the Indian subcontinent. Equipping an army for a grueling desert march requires obsessive attention to detail. Quartermasters pack thousands of sewing needles, prepare massive quantities of cotton, and soak it in sour vinegar, drying it in the shade to treat future battlefield wounds. To lead this sprawling, hyper-coordinated logistical machine, al-Hajjaj selects a commander named Muhammad bin Qasim. He is exactly 17 years old. He possesses raw tactical brilliance, but zero practical experience commanding a campaign of this scale. Entrusting thousands of lives and a massive portion of the empire's treasury to a teenager is a profound political risk. Failure would mean the loss of veteran desert units and years of tax revenue, potentially undermining al-Hajjaj's standing in the capital. The army arrives at Daybul. Today, only the dry foundations remain, but in the 8th century, these imposing stone structures form a heavily fortified perimeter. Rising above the city walls is a massive Buddhist temple. At its peak flies a giant red flag. For the defenders inside, that flag is a sacred guarantee of divine protection. As long as it flutters in the wind, they believe the city cannot fall. The Umayyads deploy a massive siege engine requiring 500 men, called the Bride. Qasim issues a specific order: shorten the catapult's leg, aim exclusively for the temple. The Bride launches its projectile, striking the flagpole and shattering it instantly. Seeing their sacred symbol destroyed creates instant psychological shock. Panic takes over, paralyzing the defenders and collapsing the city's internal resistance. Qasim didn't need to break the city's walls. By toppling the flagpole, he destroyed the defenders' conviction that they were divinely protected, ending the siege before the first ladder was even placed. The calculated psychological victory at Daybul quickly gives way to the physical horrors of open warfare as the two armies collide in a brutal, dust-choked melee. King Dahir initially commands his forces from atop a cowering war elephant, but as the assault intensifies, the defensive lines buckle. Dahir is forced into the dirt, fighting on foot alongside his men until he is killed. The true toll of the battle, however, happens far away from the front lines. Trapped inside the isolated Rawar fortress, King Dahir's wife receives news of his death. Surrounded and facing certain capture, she makes an irreversible decision. She gathers her handmaidens and all the royal wealth, barricades them inside, and sets the structure on fire. The Umayyad military victory was decisive, but it left the royal palace at Rawar a smoldering tomb for the family they displaced. The extreme pressure of total defeat strips away all other options, forcing the vanquished to make desperate, fatal choices. The campaign drags on, severely depleting Umayyad supplies. By the time they reach the imposing brick walls of Multan, the soldiers are starving, forced to slaughter and eat their own pack donkeys to survive. The city only surrenders after Qasim's men locate the secret underground aqueduct supplying Multan and sever the water flow entirely. Inside, the victors pry open the House of Gold. This silver coin is a surviving artifact of the era's physical currency, but inside the city, they discover a staggering, hoarded volume of wealth and precious metals. Back in the capital, al-Hajjaj runs the numbers. After accounting for all expenses, the prolonged military expedition yields a pure profit of 60 million dirhams. This sudden wealth turned the Sindh campaign into one of the most profitable conquests in the empire's history, ensuring that Umayyad focus remained locked on the east for decades to come. But political survival is far more fragile than battlefield glory. In quick succession, both al-Hajjaj and the ruling caliph die. A new ruler, Suleiman, ascends to power. He immediately begins purging the government, aggressively seeking revenge against anyone loyal to the previous administration. Despite handing the empire a territorial and financial victory of historic scale, Muhammad bin Qasim is stripped of his command and arrested. The young conqueror's final days are spent entirely in the dark. He is bound in heavy iron chains, subjected to brutal torture in a prison in Wasit. Stripped of his legacy, he passes the time reciting poetry about his own demise. The young man who seized 500,000 square miles for the caliphate was ultimately broken not by a rival army, but by the political machinery of the state he served.